You're listening to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Ryan Hill.
I'm John Galantis.
You can find us online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions for Dr. Shah or suggestions for new topics, send us a text to 252-582-5028, or you can email us at contact@clearviewtodayshow.com.
That's right. We want you guys to help us keep the conversation moving forward. Make sure you share the show with all your friends and family. Support us online. You can leave us a good 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasting content from. We're going to leave a couple of links right there in the description, so you can do just that. And we are here in the Clearview Today studio with Dr. Abadan Shah, who is a PhD in New Testament textual criticism, alongside very special guest, Miss Victoria Collins. Back again,
Welcome
Victoria.
back. So glad to be here.
You know, we had you on the show a couple of weeks back, and since that time, people have been writing in, texting, like, oh my goodness, that was one of the greatest couple of episodes
Praise the Lord.
I have ever heard. Just as a brief recap, Victoria, you were Mormon, raised Mormon, walked away from that faith, atheist for 3 years?
Yes.
And then came to know Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And since that episode aired, since both those episodes aired, just kind of telling that story, people have been writing in and being like, "Wow, we want her back."
Yeah.
And it was really amazing.
Yeah, we want to hear more.
Yeah.
Typically, we have conversations about Mormonism or Jehovah's Witness or any such heresies. I mean, that's what they are. They are not biblical Christianity. Even if they call themselves Christians, there's nothing Christian when you don't acknowledge that Jesus Christ was God in flesh.
That's right.
Fully God became fully man. The second person of the Godhead. If that cannot be acknowledged, then you do not have Christianity. You may have something, but it's not biblical Christianity. It's not the way, the truth, and the life.
True.
So, we can talk about it in theological terms, but hearing your testimony was very touching, was awesome, and no wonder people respond.
Oh yeah.
so well.
Oh yeah. How's it been since you've been on the show last?
It's been great, actually. It's been interesting, and just seeing that there's so many people out there that have these same questions that really don't know. I loved talking to you guys since you grew up in Christian homes, and the questions you generally had, and that's just not talked about, or maybe you guys don't have the understanding on how to approach. So it's really great that other people also have those questions.
Yeah,
oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah,
That's right.
And the heart is, not to just inform people about your story, but to resource people, to give people, the help that they need to bridge that conversation gap.
There have been similar shows that kind of have this same discussion. We're not the first Christian show to ever have on a guest who used to be Mormon or even current Mormons, but it seems like the goal is always, oh wow, these wacky Mormons, man, they believe some far out stuff. Thank goodness we believe the Bible. But I love what you said, and I think, Victoria, you said it as well before we started recording, is that the whole point of having this discussion is that there are Mormons out there, and a lot of times people will either just try to evangelize to them just the way they would do anyone else, or they'll just be like, I'm not even going to touch that one.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that is, I remember the commercials back in the 90s on the family values. Do you remember those commercials? It was so heartwarming commercials.
It's not, I don't remember those, but I know they did come out with, I think maybe 10 or 15 years ago, they had Meet the Mormons. Have you guys?
No.
And it was just like, okay, like how are they in the community? And they actually put that out like in theaters. And so it was just like to tell them like what they believe without.
You know what? I do think I remember that.
I'm going to Google.
It was kind of something.
Meet the Mormons. Do they have the white shirts and the black?
I'm sure.
And stuff like
I'm
that?
sure.
So
what a Mormon family would be like. And so they kind of like give that description out there and what their
Meet the Mormons.
I do remember that.
Rated PG.
So what do they do in that show? Just talk about their life, or just kind of walk with them daily?
Actually have not seen it.
Okay.
I just know that that's something that they push because they want everybody to kind of know like it's a normal thing without really.
I was just about to ask that very question. Is the goal of documentaries like that to be like, hey guys, this is the truth, or is it like, hey, we're just like you, we're just normal people, just like you?
That's a good question.
It is, but the main thing that is wild to me is now I was always told when I was younger it was the one true church on earth. It was the only true church. So there was no other way if you went to a different church, they just didn't know the gospel and they weren't taught the full gospel. And they didn't have all the knowledge. And so that's kind of what they would say. So it's a little wild that they're trying to mainstream it, you know?
I do want to dive into the theology, because the last couple episodes were very heavy on your story, your personal testimony. I want to dive into the theology, but before we do that, I do want to ask, the white shirts, is that like a thing that is just in media, or is that like really how a lot of, like, did you see Mormons dressed like that?
So, like the missionaries, they would wear the white shirts. So they really do want you to wear a white shirt for a missionary for that age. Also, they do want you to wear, I'm not quite sure, but I know my dad was like, you weren't allowed to wear a different color underneath your suit. It'd have to be white. But there is the white garments, which is also in the temple. And so you get your... like your chastity pajamas. I don't know. I've heard all these funny
jokes about it.
You said what?
Like chastity pajamas.
What is
I don't
that?
really know.
They're like the holy underwear.
Yes, they're just like, they keep you sacred.
Maybe don't Google that one.
Look,
I want to do it, but not on a work
they're
computer.
very thin, okay? I know my dad would walk around like, oh my gosh, you need real underwear on, okay? Seriously.
Dude.
Oh my gosh. But they were supposed to like keep purity and like from, anything. They're supposed to be extra protection kind of thing. And you had to be seen worthy through the temple to wear them.
Wow.
So the white shirt, black pant, that's a thing.
That's a thing, but then the underwear, like the underwear is another
yeah,
thing
I didn't
too.
have to get away from that.
I couldn't. When you say white thing, I was like, okay.
I'm with you.
Yes.
Wow. So why missionaries? They wouldn't wear that to like Sunday worship or to church. That's for missionaries.
No, missionaries, it's for anybody over the age of 18 that have went through the temple.
Okay.
So they'd have to wear the garments.
Okay.
And that's what, and they had symbols on them, I think on both of the nipple areas as well.
Wow.
But I'm so glad that I was always so mad that my parents stopped going to church at 13, but I'm also glad that I never had to go through the temple. I never had to do the rituals. I never had to experience that.
Yeah.
And so
That's God's grace.
Amen.
God's providence too. Sometimes your parents endured through that and God still saved them. You didn't have to, because God knew that you didn't need to go through that for a purpose.
Yeah. Amen.
For a purpose.
That's right.
I want to, before we dive into the, I'm glad you bring that up, because before we dive into the theology, Dr. Shah, do you just want to speak on the importance of doctrine? Because I think there's some people listening out there, maybe not a lot, but I think there's some people who would be like, why are we even talking about this? It's all the same. You just believe slightly different things.
So, I'm known for controversy, but not.
You're not the first
I'm not
king
a mean
of controversy.
person, but I am. Sometime back, you guys know what I'm talking about. The whole community came together. They were very excited about a young man who was going to go be a missionary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is great, amazing. Because I know the person. I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. But it didn't take but 2 minutes of scrolling down the pictures to go, wait. That's Latter-day Saints. He's going to be a missionary with the Latter-day Saints? So I'm like, no, that cannot be. That cannot be. I mean, he's sang at weddings, churches, funerals, everything. Yep. And I'm thinking, that cannot be. So I'm looking through it because I know the person too, by the way. Yeah. And sure enough, and it's church folks,
Christians
who are coming along and saying, so proud of you. Go out there. You're going to make a difference for Jesus Christ. And I sat in utter shock, and I came and told them. Y'all remember that day?
I remember
I said, you won't believe this. And it was not just a shock, but it was heartbreaking, because the whole time I thought a lot about this young man, and then to hear that he was going in the mission field, it was like, oh, okay, this is great. And then to go, no, this is
He's
wrong.
Going on mission, like on Mormon mission.
Wrong. This is, he was going to go, and he's still there doing this Mormon thing. And pictures are posted constantly now, and it's heart-wrenching to me, because that is as deep as you go in the pit of darkness, is how I see it. Yeah. That's got nothing to do with God. That's got nothing to do with the biblical Christianity. And so
even though they're trying right now to shift it.
They're trying to,
they literally are trying to shift it to look more like the gospel, which is wild to me. So the things that they are trying to change. But yeah, it's the rite of passage, you have to be 18 and go on a mission. And like, if you don't, then you've done something wrong. And they go for a month of like just learning what to say, how to approach. And if people start asking questions like that, they're the enemy and the enemy's trying to get to them. So stop going. And
when you say asking questions, you mean like people like cross-examining them or trying to poke holes in their theology?
Because a lot of missionaries, like pastors, will bring them in and they'll be like, okay, sit down, and then they'll just feed them truth. They'll listen to their spiel and they'll feed them truth. And they were told, and anybody that would question anything that had to go along with what Mormonism was, they would say, oh, the enemy's just getting to you. Just go pray about it and go off of your feelings. And that's why it's so important to know the Word of God.
Yeah.
It is so important because it's so easy to mess up the Trinity. It's so, my dad goes to some spots, and I'm so thankful that the Lord is really opening and just having these conversations. But, where he says he's the Son, how is he the Son? And you're just thinking of such a humanized God. You are not looking at big God. You're not seeing the big picture.
Right.
Because they have just a worldly perspective.
Yeah.
And it looks great because it's like values. Like, we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't do this. If you don't do that, if you don't drink, if you don't smoke, if you, dress modestly, if you do all of these things, then you can go through the temple, and it's all these checkmark things. So, wow, their values look good, especially to a young couple that are like, oh, my parents went to church. And so they kind of just feed on that. And that's where the missionaries kind of like get in there, because they're like, oh, well, I prayed, and they might have prayed the night before. A lot of people's testimonies, I prayed and I said, God, what church should I should take my kids to church. And then all of a sudden these Mormon missionaries show up,
You said something a few moments ago about they're trying to make a shift. Are you saying that they're probably making a shift towards biblical Christianity, or is something is happening there?
Where, where God is, they said that Jesus is the God of the Old Testament.
Right. So, they're not there yet, but there is
they're trying to, and they're also doing Bible studies at home. So they're going through the New Testament. And I remember the week that they were going through it, the people around me, they were going through Romans, and I was just like, how can you read Romans and not see it? Like, Romans is my book.
The reason I bring that up is because this has been years ago. I don't know if you've heard of the Worldwide Church of God. This was led by a man by the name of Herbert Armstrong. It was also known as Armstrongism.
Is it still there?
No, here's what happened. Okay. This is Daddy who started this, and it was sort of coming out of the Seventh-day Adventist type movement, but it went heretical. Very quickly, it went off the deep end. I would put it on the same level as Mormonism or Jehovah's Witness. It was not biblical Christianity. It's not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's not the Messiah prophesied in the Old and New Testament. None of that. Trinity is not there. And what happened is, interestingly, which never happens, but it happened, where after Father died, the Son came under, took on the leadership. And under his leadership, from 1986 onwards, they made a shift to biblical Christianity.
Wow. So what was the name of the religion again, or the movement?
The movement was Worldwide Church of God.
That's right.
But now it is known as Grace Communion International. You can Google it.
And they've morphed into...
And the Son actually led... So I don't know where Father is going to be one day.
yeah.
But I know this much. The Son led the movement into biblical Christianity.
So what is the movement? Now are they just Christians?
Yeah. It's this has been a while back since I had researched this, but as you were talking, it made me immediately remember back to that. See, like Wikipedia, again, not the most perfect source when it comes to that, but this is what they say. Much of GCI, which is Grace Communion International's current doctrine, follows mainstream Protestant beliefs that faith in Jesus is the only way to receive salvation, and that the Bible is the divinely inspired and infallible Word of God.
Wow.
So it happened.
It does, but that's on such a smaller level.
Yeah,
you know?
But
that's that happens. I know in churches for sure, and I think there's that hope. But Mormonism is so much deeper than that,
bigger.
And I love here because you guys actually go on the trips and you see like this is the Bible comes alive. Like these places that we read about in the Old Testament are real places that you can go to.
Yes.
You know, the Book of Mormon does talk about, because this is like the promise, this is Zion, and this is the promised land and all the things, but there's no archaeological proof.
Right.
There's none of that. You can't say that. I mean, the Bible, there's proof.
Yeah.
You know you can. You guys have seen it. And so that's like one of the things that is hard for them to explain. Okay, all these wars happen in New York, and yet there's no arrowheads. There's no nothing. Like there's nothing left behind.
Oh, come on, bro. It's all just buried under the concrete. That's where it is.
They even, I think the newest one, there's a book that they refer like where they took places, which states they did. Somebody actually in North Carolina made this book in reference to the Book of Mormon. And so I was like, it's funny, but they were also some of the Mayan temples. They're trying to claim that was
part of the same thing.
Wow.
It's funny to me.
Yeah.
And Brigham Young University, you know, this is where you have reputable academics. So the moment you get in the academic world, of course, there are liberals and there are secularists and all that. And I know they say the Bible is not the Word of God. So I know there are those kind of people too. But at least at the heart of academics, there is that understanding that we're going to be objective. I really do not know how Mormon academics are objective when they're reading their text or doing that. It's like, these things don't exist. But we're going to make a big paper on this.
Right.
It's funny to me. How do they do that?
Where do you, I don't know, but you know that would be really good to actually look into and see, because what are you teaching in these?
There's a lot of
maybe there's not a class like that. What if there is not a class like and they're just going off of the biblical.
Right, like Protestant or even liberal Christian theologians will disagree on things, or miracles didn't happen and stuff like that. But at least they can say, oh yes, there is an Israel, there is Egypt, there is Greece and Jordan and all that. You know, there's a real places and real things happen in history. But we take it that God did not do miracles or whatever.
Right.
I can. Okay, let's discuss that. How do they?
That's what I was going to ask.
There are
Christians.
There's nothing.
There are even really famous Christians that that we hail as heroes of the faith who will say, "Listen, a lot of the Old Testament is myth.
Yeah,
it's myth. It didn't happen, but those principles are there." Does that exist in the Mormon Church, where people will be like, "Hey, look, Joseph Smith, he didn't do all that stuff."
You're kind of shunned if you ask questions, which is so wild. I love being a Christian now because like you can ask all those questions and there's answers.
Yeah.
Like there's answers.
Right.
But if you had questions like that, but also it's a peer thing. Like you have a group of family. They bring you in and they love you and they serve you and they take care of you. So you really don't question it.
Right.
You know, they kind of spoon feed you the things that you need to hear and whatnot, but you don't, I don't think that you question it. That's why people stay so long. But now there's the internet. There's the internet. Everybody's like, the internet's the worst. I was like, but there's been people that have come to salvation just Googling things. And you know, as evil it is, a lot of times there is still good that is happening.
That's a great
I know
point.
you left when you were 13, so I don't know how much you remember, but how much of like Mormon preaching is theology versus like hey, this is what Joseph Smith did and these are historical things that happened versus this is how you should live your life to be good.
It's more of reciting, like in the kids, and it was called primary. Like it was just reciting the word of wisdom, the articles of faith, like all the things that you say. They give you a manufactured testimony. My testimony is that most kids would say that it started with Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God. So we are taught that. That's how we started the test.
Almost like a brainwash. You got to do this right.
As a child. And so when my parents were pulling away, I literally was like drowning because I was like, this is how I believed. Like I really believed. And I was a child. And so I just was like, oh my gosh, we're going to go to hell. Like we're going to go to hell, or there's 3 tiers. We're going to go to telestial or whatever, the outer darkness, whatever.
Could you go to hell if you denied Joseph Smith? Is that is he
for sure? And the day that I got saved, I said that out loud, and I felt like a dark presence, and then it left. And I've always like, oh my gosh, this is so wild. But honestly, I denounced it. You have to denounce those things because the spiritual is real.
Yes.
Would they deny that they put Joseph Smith on the same level as Jesus, or would they say we do that and it's fine?
So it doesn't say that in the Book of Mormon, but they had like the little side books. You know, they're always something more.
Pearl of Great Price or something like that.
Right. But they also had like little manuscripts, and where he boasted that he had suffered more than Jesus Christ.
Oh.
Wow.
When he was tarred and feathered,
Yikes.
and so
Wow.
Okay.
If I
wait a minute,
Claim.
red flags.
Wow.
if I went to a Mormon elder or a Mormon bishop, priest,
Bishop,
if I went to them and said, "Listen, I'm bought in. I believe that Jesus Christ did everything that the Bible and that the Book of Mormon said he did. I just don't believe Joseph Smith was a prophet." Would they say you can't be saved? You can't do that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You think
that would be interesting?
That would allow me to be a Mormon?
They might. I don't know. They're kind of desperate right now.
Really?
Yeah, they're kind of
Really?
desperate,
Wow.
and there
Really?
is a shift
Okay.
because I think there's a shift in general in our country. Like I'm seeing young Christians come to faith that their parents never even went
Wow.
to church.
Yes.
I got you.
I sat next to a girl a year ago on the plane, and she's seen my cross necklace, which I could never wear before, which is really scary to me. But
you can wear a cross necklace as a
could
Mormon?
not wear a cross.
As a Mormon?
Yeah, because they didn't believe that Jesus took on our sin on the cross. The cross was just a gruesome thing that he had to do. Like it was, they really diminished the actual.
There was no
So don't wear a
payment.
cross.
There was no payment for sin on the cross.
No, it was done in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
All the sin was taken on there.
Wow.
Huh.
Crazy, isn't it?
That is crazy. Here's a question for you, Dr. Shah. Why do you think, because when you talk about beliefs like this, Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, even Muslims, there's always a feel, and I don't know if it's genuine or not, but there's always this image that they're way more devout than Christians are. Christians seem to be. Do you think the Christians seem to be more laxatives? Like, hey, look, we're all good. We believe in God. You believe, you do your thing. But all these others are like, no, this is the one. This is the one.
It's a man-made religion.
Mm-hmm.
All of these are man-made laws based on rules and regulations used to temper human beings, to bring some kind of a peaceful existence and a sense. I mean, nobody will join a religion that says we're going to just kill everybody and kill each other and hate everybody every day. I get up, I'm going to hate my family. I'm going to be a mean person. I'm going to be the worst neighbor possible. I don't know if anybody will join that religion.
Right. Yeah.
But if somebody says, hey, we're going to come together and we're going to build our families and we're going to build our nation or our region or whatever, and we're going to spread peace. Yeah, I mean, I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds good on paper.
Yeah.
And they are earning their salvation. So they're like, okay, I'm not going to drink. Well, I'm definitely not going to drink because I can't do this, and this, and this. Or I'm not going to smoke, so I'm not going to do this, and this. Or
Which is actually the same
I'm
in
not
Islam.
gonna use foul language
Yeah.
because of this, and this, and all of those checkmark things. They look like great people on the outside, so that's kind of exciting to see. But they don't, have the actual root of Christ.
It's man's way of getting to God. It's not God coming down to us.
Yeah.
It's like, we got this.
Right.
And we acknowledge you, but we'll make you who we want you to be, and we're building this road to heaven. I mean, that's it. Mormonism sounds very much like Islam.
Yeah.
I mean, Muhammad had those visions and those experiences, very painful, and all that he talks about. So also Joseph Smith, when he was all covered in sweat and all that. I mean, very similar things are happening there. And then they get the revelation, and they have this passing down the revelation to the disciples, and disciples take it to another level.
Wow.
Yep.
It is interesting to me that we're talking about these man-made religions that share similarities across the board. And like you were saying, John, they have the picture or almost the caricature of being so devout and so sold out on an idea that's wrong, but they've devoted every ounce of their being to. So then the impetus is on us as Christians, like, why are we not, if we have the truth, we have genuinely what will save people for eternity, why are we not out there going and telling people like these other religions.
Well, you know, when you see Mormons on TV or in movies, it's usually depictions of Mormons. So there could be some exaggeration. I'm sure there is. But they seem so happy. Mormons, like when you look at Mormons, they seem like, man, they've got it. Like they've got their families together. They are just the happiest.
Businesses are successful.
Businesses are successful.
Businesses are successful.
Yeah. They're clean cut, nice people, strong family values.
Lots of money.
Lots of money. Just a picture of joy.
Yes.
Is that fake or is it real? But they're diluted. Like they've built. Do you know what I'm asking? Like, are they putting on a show or is it? No, they're really happy. They're just twisted in their thinking.
So much money too. That's like the thing, like so many of them. And I'm like, okay, well, Satan gives gifts too. And I realize that. And just really successful businesses because they all know each other and they're intertwined and it's just flowing. Like it really is. Also, there's nobody that is paid on staff, right? So that's not the church isn't their job. These are just people that are in the congregation, like the bishop and the leaders of the church, which to me seems problematic now that I look at it because they had all these other responsibilities, yet they were in charge of these families, you know? So that was like a secondary job and they were not paid or there was nothing, you know, keeping them there. And so, yeah, it's just, I think it's a way of life and it's just fake promises. That's why you stay.
Wow. That's incredible. You know, do you want to talk? We got about 4 minutes left, but you know, we also mentioned that Mormons have very strong family values, which on paper sounds like a really good thing. But I know we were talking about this the last couple of weeks when you were here. That's actually one of the things that kind of keeps you into that life.
They just hold your family captive and your salvation is in yourself more so than Jesus. That's just like a little piece of it. It's not the main piece of what saves you. And so they're just stuck in a works-based circle and it's understandable. I know how people stay there. Like I just know. And they shun you too. That's another thing. Like they bring you in as a family, but then if you have any questions, you are just outcast. Like there is no.
So they really don't tolerate like, hey, I've got some questions. I need some clarity.
Which seems like it would be a red flag in itself. But if you grow up in that,
you just go with it.
Because they're the ones.
Or the ritual in the like temple.
Yeah.
And this is before in the 70s. My mom did share this with me, and she said they threatened to cut her belly and her throat if she told anybody about it. And this is before she was getting sealed to her husband. And she's like, I remember just sitting in my car, shocked. Like, did that really happen? And you just do it because everybody else around you is doing it.
Wow.
If they threatened to cut her if she disclosed information about the ritual?
The ritual, yeah. And they give you a new name and all that stuff. Which,
yikes.
Wow.
That's insane. I didn't hide
in America.
Yeah, this is happening next door. And so, guys, don't. I know it's super exciting as Christians, and we get like almost angry because you see Satan's work in a religion that is not, that just takes our family captive. But how you approach a Mormon is with love, and you show them Jesus, because they are not going to look at a Bible. They might, especially if they're deep in it, they're not going to look at a Bible, but they are going to see how you treat them. And we laugh about it. And I know that you guys, if you are in the Bible, you look at it and you're just like, how did this happen? But it is happening. Yeah. It's happening now. Like there is a family and they could be next door. And so just love them, show them that they are forgiven, because when you are stuck in a works-based salvation, you literally think that you need to be good, and nobody here is good enough because Jesus did it. And so lots of grace and love.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. I want to dive into that tomorrow. I want to dive into the theology of Mormonism and then consequently how to approach a Mormon. Maybe we can kind of take a look at that tomorrow. But Dr. Shah, Victoria, thank you so much for being here. This was incredible.
Yes, thank you. So helpful for us to think about. And I love what you said, Victoria. Like, this is happening next door. Yeah. Like, we need to be aware of this. That's the whole heart behind the show, that we be engaging people's hearts and minds for the sake of the gospel. That's right. That's the gospel for you as our listeners, but also the gospel for those who are in your context. And here's how you can share the gospel with them: by sharing the message of the Clearview Today Show. You can do that in lots of different ways. Find us online, clearviewtodayshow.com. Text in and let us know how we can answer questions for you, 252-582-5028. Or you can become a financial partner in this show by visiting clearviewtodayshow.com. Scroll to the bottom, click the donate button, and let us know what's coming from our Clearview Today Show family. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow on Clearview Today.